to order, please. We will start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing. Following the Pledge of Allegiance will be a silent moment of reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will have the reading of the notice, please.
The adjourned organizational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, composed of 38 members, will convene at the Marathon County Courthouse, Assembly Room 500 Forest Street, Wausau, on Tuesday, June 24th at 6 p.m., and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you, and I would like to request everyone please silence your cell phones and any other electronic devices as to not be an interruption to the meeting, and I thank you for your indulgence. We'll move on to roll call, and I'd ask all the supervisors please sign in to Roll Call Pro, please. All right, thank you. I'd like to welcome all of the visitors that we have with us this evening, and including the viewing audience, and thank you for your interest in county government. We will move on to standing committee chairs or designees. Any reports? Standing committee chairs. Supervisor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to update the board that the Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee had approved the reclassification of the Facilities and Capital Management Director to a Deputy County Administrator position. It's in the same pay grade, so there's no cost implications. And the thought is that there will be 2 Deputy County Administrators in the county to share the burden in help with implementation of the work plan. The Facilities and Capital Management Director will basically become in charge of the public work, a quasi-informal public works department where they'll have highway, parks, recreation, forestry, solid waste, and facilities and capital management under it. And we just wanted to keep the board. It was something that the committee could do under its reclassification process, and wanted to keep you informed of it. The administrator had sent out an email relative to that change month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Okay, any other chairpersons or designees? Any reports by standing committees? All right, thank you. We'll proceed to consent agenda items C8 through items C13A. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Marash and seconded by Supervisor Drabek. Any discussion on items C8 through item C13A? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. And Supervisor Opel? Aye. Supervisor Opel's aye. Thank you. And we'll proceed. And the motion is carried, but it is not unanimous. We'll move on to resolutions, items D, 14, resolution from Extension Education and Economic Development Committee, a resolution providing direction to Marathon County's representative on tax incremental district joint review boards and county administration regarding Marathon County's evaluation of future proposed TIF increment districts. Resolution 36-25. Motion. First, we need a motion. Motion by Supervisor Pfeffrick. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Lemmer. Next, we have Supervisor Marash, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to send this back to committee.
Okay, there's a motion to refer back to committee. That's a preferential motion. Is there a second? I'll allow the clerk to put in the motion. Yeah, motion to refer. Okay, seconded by Supervisor Hardinger. Any discussion on the motion to refer back to committee? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Supervisor Opal? Supervisor Opal, aye. Supervisor Unger? Supervisor Unger, aye. All right, we'll proceed. And the motion is carried. And we'll move on from the Human Resources and Finance and Property Committee, a disposition of surplus property at 811 North 3rd Avenue, City of Wausau. Resolution 37-25. Motion by Supervisor... just a second. Yeah, that one is not needed anymore. All right, now I'll accept motion and a second. Motion by Supervisor Covelli, seconded by Supervisor Marash. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Supervisor Opal? Aye. Supervisor Opal is aye. Thank you. We'll proceed. And the motion is carried and is unanimous. Thank you. Item F, F16, a resolution supporting Allison Dairyland sponsorship, Resolution 38-25. This is a simple majority vote because it's coming out of a budgeted line item. Motion by Supervisor Drabek, seconded by Supervisor Rosenberg. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Supervisor Opal? Aye. Supervisor Opal's aye. Thank you, and we'll proceed. And the motion is carried and is unanimous. Thank you. Item G, G17, a resolution authorizing funding for Regional Aviation Development Fund, Resolution 39-25. Motion by Supervisor Pfeffrick, seconded by Supervisor Marash. Any discussion? Supervisor Lemmer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for 2026, right?
Correct. This would be building the fund in the 2026 budget.
So can you just explain, can somebody just explain how making this decision today is any different than coming with a budget adjustment or resolution to do this later once we have more facts around what the budget would be like, other than the 2/3 vote might be required? But there's no access to the money until the budget passes, and so assuming the budget passes with this in it, I'm just not sure how this is advantageous to do this today with all the uncertainty in the state and federal budget going forward.
Administrator Leonard, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a great question. And Airport Director Griefe's in the back. My sense from participating in some of these discussions relative to the kind of how the airport and the airport board were looking to develop this fund is that it provides the necessary inducement, or at least some potential inducement, for the third-party entity to go around to those other private sector funding sources to say, look, here's some action on behalf of the Marathon County Board, and I understand Brian and Centergy are going to attempt to do the same thing with the Portage County Board, to say, look, here's an expression of support, not only from the 3 committees that have already looked at this, but from the county board, to put this funding into the budget in 2026, to then hopefully drum up support for that private side of that funding, which again is about half of the overall cost. You are absolutely correct. This expression of support does not actually tie any funds to being allocated in 2026. What it tells me to do is present a budget to the HR Finance and Property Committee on the end of September, that has funding provided consistent with this resolution. It does not in any way bar a member of HR Finance from offering an amendment, and a member of the full board, or on the day the budget adoption is taking place in November, from amending that.
And then, so just to follow up, if this were to be prioritized, you do not have any idea where it would come from in the budget and what might be a trade-off at this point in time. Is that correct?
I think I'll say this. I think I'll agree with you in terms of, do I have a funding source identified? This would have to be an unrestricted funding source. So as part of the budget building process, as was alluded to in the presentation that you received last week, you have a variety of funding streams. There are certain areas, of course, where funding for this sort of activity cannot come. If there are restricted grant funds for specific activities, those don't align. But you do expect, I think it's fair to say, we expect an increase in sales tax. I would foresee that this would be something that could be funded through any of those non-restricted areas. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, Supervisor Rosenberg, please.
The CWA currently has an air service incentive program offering air carriers with new routes and/or service reduction in airport fees for use and occupancy space of the facilities, along with use of equipment, in addition to a 24-month waiver of landing fees. The minimum revenue guarantee would add to these sweeteners to assure that the carrier would have a certain level of profit. I believe the air carriers are able to calculate the routes, times, price, advertising needed to be successful, and do not require the taxpayers to assure them 2 years to succeed with no obligation to continue. The sponsors of this RGF should expect long-term service for their investment, and the carriers should be analyzing the risks and rewards with that in mind. I have no interest in subsidizing discount air carriers flying to vacation destinations, and I don't think, generally speaking, the taxpayers of Marathon County will be either. This proposal is somewhat of an end around the budget process and directing administrators to include this amount in his budget proposals. Are we now to see other entities with prospective resolutions and dollar amounts early in the year so as to move their interest ahead of the others? and discretionary spending to the top of the list. The MRG should be discussed and evaluated in competition with other interests. Enterprises contemplating moving or expanding in our area evaluate taxes, available property, gas, electric rates, housing costs and affordability, education, labor availability and skill level, childcare, recreation, not just air service. I'll be voting no on this resolution, and I cannot justify this action to my constituents at this point in the budget process. Alivo, which was used as an illustration of a success in this, is interesting. If we had a MRG with them as they made the decision to be the go-to airline for deportations and caused a boycott, the proposed funding would be making up the losses. All this smells like a shakedown engineered by the air carriers who seem to be shaking us all down for baggage fees, seating, anything else they can find. I can't justify it.
Vice Chair Dickinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate Supervisor Lemmers and Supervisor Rosenberg's persistence on this matter regarding the budget. And I'll say this, I would hope they and every supervisor is as persistent on every line item in the 2026 budget as is what's happening right now, because it hasn't happened in the past, but we know it probably won't happen in the future. To me, this is a no-brainer decision. We have tremendous leadership at the airport. This is what is necessary for our airport, which means our strategic plan goals. It's for our residents, our businesses, it's for the entire community, and I will vehemently vote yes. Thank you.
Supervisor Robinson, please.
Thank you. One of the reasons why we're considering this at this time is to give an indication of commitment so that the airport director can go out and negotiate with firms to get them in line and in place for next year. And if we wait for the budget, we'll probably lose 6 months or a year relative to the ability to bring in that service. And I think if you look back over the years, we had 12 flights a day. We're down to 5 flights a day. I think there are some concerns relative to the future long-term viability of the airport if we don't get additional flights into the airport, whether it be seasonal, vacational, or others. They benefit the flying community. In talking to Dave Ekman from the Chamber of Commerce, talent, recruitment, and retention is important. One of the critical issues in attracting and keeping talent is the ability to fly away for vacation and get to places through the airport. And we're capturing 25 to 35% of the market in this area. The rest are driving to Appleton, Madison, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. It would be nice to be able to offer additional flights through Central Wisconsin Airport and increase its financial viability. And with that, I'd also like to propose an amendment in the first, now therefore be it resolved at the end of that to insert language, Marathon County's contribution is contingent upon contributions from Portage County and the business community.
Okay, there's an amendment offered, and just a second, I'll have the clerk put in the amendment. What's that?
Still a majority?
It's just a majority, correct. Okay, motion by Supervisor Robinson, seconded by Supervisor Hardinger to insert the language that, do you have the language you want to repeat?
Marathon County's commitment is contingent upon participation by Portage County and the business community.
So any discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Hardinger, please.
So to add what Supervisor Robinson was stating was, this is a pledge by the county. It is to show our involvement in the board, the Central Wisconsin Airport Board, to be able to get other donators to participate in this. And I think Supervisor Lemmer's point, she has a good point. And I think if we give them 3 months to say that Marathon County is committed to developing the airport and developing local business, travel through the airport rather than having it go somewhere else, by the time the budget comes in, if we're not able to get anybody else to commit to that, then we could look at the budget and cut it from that line then.
Supervisor Covelli, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the amendment, looking for business support and for other county support, I'd like a little bit of history on if we've ever had this type of request before and if we've ever gotten business support like this before.
I think the answer, the air service, we did have the two counties of the two owner counties involved in last time when Avelo Airlines came in. There was a match from the counties, both counties, but at that time we had a federal grant that was available for aviation expansion. And so we didn't go to the business community at that time. So this would be the first time that we're going to the business community and or potentially the philanthropy to fund the other half of this proposed program. Vice Chair Dickinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on this amendment, I would be interested to know what Airport Director Griffey thinks about that, given that he's done this work. The Airport Board has approved, 3 standing committees have approved, and then what kind of business communities are we talking about, if that's appropriate, if he could speak.
Okay, is there any objection to having the Airport Director address the potential amendment that's being offered? Without objection, Director Griffey, please.
Thank you, Chair Gibbs. Happy to comment on the amendment. Certainly, as it relates to Portage County, that makes a lot of sense, as Marathon and Portage County are both owner counties. I'd probably be looking for some clarification on what exactly the business community would represent. Would that be a business in particular? Would that be or any outside funding? From a management standpoint, from my perspective, if that were to be a little more generic in that the 2 owner counties and an outside funding source, that would give me a little more latitude in who and how I'm working. Thank you.
And I'd also ask Corp Counsel to address the amendment because I think there's some question as to how it's being worded and the what if scenario.
Sure. So as I look at the original draft resolution, it serves to direct the administrator to include a sum of $150,000 in the 2026 budget. So I guess it's unclear to me as to whether this amendment would then direct him not to include that in the 2026 budget if the contributions haven't been pledged by Portage County and the business community, or because this isn't a resolution that is actually committing funding, but is instead direction on the budget. I guess I'm a little confused on how the amendment works with the underlying resolution. So any clarity from the motion maker as far as how that is intended would be helpful to determine whether this is in order at this time.
Supervisor Robinson?
So I think the intent is to have outside sources in the context, whether it's the foundations. I think that Director Griffey has talked about in the past, going to foundations, businesses, and others. I really don't care about the source, but maybe a better way to deal with that would be outside sources. I don't have a problem with offering it. I was offering it because of some concerns that were expressed about whether or not we have the support. This doesn't proceed without Marathon County support, but it also doesn't proceed if we don't have funding from other sources. So they're all mutually inclusive. If we don't have participation from one, we're not going to be able to get the plan off the ground. So I don't have a problem with withdrawing the motion and making it clear that at the time that the budget comes around, that we have those commitments in place as a condition, with the understanding that we're going to raise that issue at the time that the budget comes around. So I would be willing to withdraw the motion in light of the question and confusion, with the intent that the airport manager work with the other counties, and at the time that this is presented to the county board, bring in a report relative to the status of the participation of other parties.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion. Is the second good with a withdrawal?
That was my understanding as well, that it comes back to us knowing whether or not anybody else pledged to match our funds, and we're not the only ones putting money toward the airport board. And that was how I understood that intent.
In speaking with the airport director, I think the fact is, if Marathon County is the only one putting dollars in, the viability of this fund itself to entice a airport or an air carrier would be pretty much minimal, if not existent. So I think it's incumbent upon the airport director to provide direction at the time when the budget comes forward as to the participation by the other counties and participation by the business and philanthropy community. Administrator Leonard, please.
Nothing of substance to add, but there was a question about, has the county ever done anything like this before? And with respect to the Regional Forensic Science Center, you did my sense, I would characterize the approach similarly. The county board stepped up and said, we are putting this funding forward to make that facility, in the hopes of making that facility a reality. With the expectation for it to happen, other funding partners needed to come to the plate to round out that funding, and of course that was successful. A little side note, I took my first tour today.
And I think the other time it was also utilized when we did the therapeutic pool. We asked the community and the foundations to move forward with up to $3 million to fund that project. And the county was committed to bringing in the $3 million, the other half of the needed funds. And so we did leverage the county with the other communities. So I don't know that it's not unprecedented, but specifically to the Air Service, it was only the county at that time. So is the second good with withdrawal? Okay, so we'll withdraw a motion to amend, and we're back to the motion to approve with the motion by Supervisor Fifrick and seconded by Supervisor Marash. And we have next to discuss Supervisor Lemmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to be clear, I am a supporter of CWA. I have flown out of CWA. I have confidence in the staff at CWA. What I am concerned about is we haven't even set our budget priorities for this budget, and we're being asked to prioritize this over everything else. And that's my concern. And then I understand there might have been 12 flights a day in a prior time, and now we're down to 4 or 5. I'm thinking way back, there were 30. So I don't know what the future of aviation is. What I've done with Gemini and ChatGPT, they're talking about non-hub airlines or airports are in jeopardy. And so we are a little bit behind the 8 ball. If this were presented in November, I might be much more likely to support it. I just have a problem with the prioritizing it today.
Supervisor Ritter, please.
Thank you, Chair Gibbs. I do agree that if we approve this, it will set the precedent to get more money coming in from outside places. And also looking at the big picture, that airport's not there just for all of us to go on vacation. It'll support local business, making their life easier, bringing people in and out as needed. And also, we got to look at other people going on vacation from across country. it might make it easier for them to come to Marathon County and spend their money in the county. So I will be supporting this.
Supervisor Hoppe, please.
A few months ago, the Mosinee Sheriff's Department came before the Safety Committee and talked about how the airport is taking away from their ability to serve their community. They get called out for situations at the airport because the airport doesn't have proper security. And if you want other airlines to come in here, I think that needs to be a priority to be fixed before we expand anything. Thank you.
Supervisor Poole, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This proposal isn't happening in a vacuum. Our airport is in a very competitive environment, and ideally, this proposal will help give us a comparative advantage, or at least not have a comparative disadvantage with other airports in different regions. So I'm in favor of this proposal to help make sure our airport stays more competitive.
Vice Chair Dickinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my last comment. Supervisor Hopper brought up that those comments about security at the airport, that was debunked. There's significant conversation that there are not these security issues at the airport. Thank you.
Any other discussion? The motion is to authorize the resolution 39-25. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Supervisor Opel. Aye. Supervisor Opel's an aye. Thank you. And we'll proceed. And the motion is carried, but is not unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to item H from the Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee and Infrastructure Committee, a resolution authorizing the purchase of property for Marathon County Highway Facility, Resolution 40-25. This is a budget amendment and does require a 2/3 majority vote. Motion by Supervisor Drabek, second by Supervisor Robinson. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. And Supervisor Opel. Aye. Supervisor Opel's an aye. Thank you. Proceed. And the motion is carried, but is not unanimous. Thank you. We will move on to item I from the Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee and Public Safety Committee. Item I-19, a resolution accepting the comprehensive opioid stimulant and substance use program grant funds from the U.S. Department of Justice. Resolution 41-25. This is a budget amendment, does require a 2/3 majority vote. Motion by Supervisor Cavelli and seconded by Supervisor Poole. Any discussion on the resolution? All right, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. And Supervisor Opel. Aye. Supervisor Opel's aye. Thank you. We'll proceed. And the motion is carried and is unanimous. Thank you. We're down to item J, announcements and/or requests. Any announcements and/or requests? Okay, we're down to the infamous one, item 21. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Kroll, second by Supervisor Cavelli to adjourn. All those in the favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 30 minutes, not bad.